All right, looks like I'm up and running live. I had problems with the first time I was trying to do this. So in today's video or live stream, I really don't have much on my agenda. I really just want to spend time to put something out there. I haven't been putting any videos and content, frankly, in the past few months, just because it's been so busy, so hectic, and with the stuff going on with the coronavirus, I figure why not just take the time to at least share a little bit about my story in consulting. Why not talk about consulting? It was sitting on my mind. A lot of the work I'm doing right now is consulting, and I just want to kind of spend the time to just put something out there. I really don't have the kind of like the passion to go and create videos and edit or hire someone to go do editing. It just, I don't know, maybe I'll get there. I don't know. But it's just a priority thing. Anyways, what I want to kind of talk about is kind of a little bit about my story in the consulting space and what led me to the point I'm at today. So I've been in consulting for over 15 years, pretty much ever since I graduated from college. And really, how I stumbled upon it, I didn't even know what consulting was at all. Really, I didn't. And it was the second highest paying offer at the time when I graduated. It's really funny, coming from Asian parents. They were like really upset the fact that I turned down a higher paying job, and it was a pretty significant difference in pay at the time. It was like $10,000-$15,000. But I already accepted an offer with a consulting company, and then people say, why? Why did you go with that company? Well, one is like, well, I didn't know much about the company, and they were just rebranded, and they were just really just starting to grow. Stock at the time was trading around $12, $13. They were public. But the kicker was the 5 weeks of vacation coming out of college, and I was like, that's what sold me. I remember talking to my uncle, and I asked him, how long did it take you to get 5 weeks vacation? He said it took him 10 years. I'm like, 10 years? They're going to give it to me right away, without realizing there was a catch, right? So never really got to use any of that vacation that often. But anyways, so I started off my career on my very first project. I remember I had a information systems background in management. So I was in the College of Business. I switched my major 5 times. I was an engineer. My whole family was engineers, and we spent pretty much my entire time just studying engineering, and realized it wasn't really for me. So I had to ask my aunt, who do you hire? You work for Siebel? Who do you hire nowadays? And that's when she said they hire a lot of MIS people, so management information systems. So that brought me to my first consulting gig, and it's really funny. We were training on .NET at the time. I had a computer science, a little bit of background, did some development. I was very technically savvy at the time, and we were doing programming as our training. But the really funny thing is that my very first project had nothing to do with development. It was out in the boonies. It was a 4-hour drive. My first travel gig, and I was doing testing. I was doing test conditioning. I was doing the actual testing of these systems, right? It was a financial transformation, and it was a massive integration. There were what you call charter client. It was the very first time ever in the US to be implementing this type of system. It was originally designed in Europe, and I had an opportunity to go and work and travel in Barcelona, Spain, where the team there was the original developers, and was doing some knowledge transfer sessions. So that was my first gig. I spent about pretty much a year and a half doing that. And then I shifted over to a client. So I've always been in financial services. And, the funny thing about consulting companies is that you don't really have much of a say. They pretty much picked an industry for me, and this is the path I need to take. And I was a yes man at the time. You're a brand new college grad. You just do what you're told. At least that's how I was brought up, and just do it really well. And then I became, a developer. I became a business analyst, a business designer for the systems, and then became a developer. And then, long story short, I've been on financial transformation programs, systems integration practices, managing teams, offshore, both in Manila and Bangalore, um, and really just elevated my career over the years. I was extremely introverted and was forced to be versatile and build the versatility in terms of my particular social style of try to be extroverted, right? Or in order to become a certain type of leader or manager or whatever the next rank or level that may be, you're always growing. So it's always 2-3 years, you're always growing, getting promoted, you're always elevated, you're held to the highest standards of performance. So that was the only world I knew. And then after spending nearly a decade with that company, switched over to a new company that was headhunted in a more private practice, another large firm, and to help build out their IT advisory practice in financial services and banking. Eventually shift over to insurance as the market shifts. And that's the thing about consulting is that you shift with the market. You go where the demand is. If you have the relevant skills in that space, or things that are more, platform agnostic, industry agnostic, where if you can lead an account or a team, they're going to need to have someone that can do the same thing regardless of what industry that is, and basically really understand the landscape. So without getting into all the details of that experience, I pretty much spent a good majority, I would say 80-90% of that time in my career traveling, exclusively traveling. We're talking about Monday to Thursdays every week, working 50, 60, 80-hour weeks, depending on the program, constantly. It's like clockwork. I'm telling you, it was one of those things where you get lost in the work. You have no time for yourself. You try to maximize. You become a really good at kind of like managing your time. When you come home on Thursday nights, you work at home Fridays, and you maximize your weekends. Spend time with friends, family, taking care of things. Sunday night, you're doing the whole routine of packing up again. Monday morning, you're out again. It was like that for the longest time. That was my routine. It was kind of like the same thing as driving through rush hour traffic, except I'm on a plane every single time. Basically, over those years, I developed a health issue. And 2 years ago, I was forced to quit, burn out, can only do so much. I was a year or two away from reaching the highest rank, and didn't think it was worth it. Looking at other people who are already in that area, and I just knew that it was time to make a change. Frankly, it took too long for me to realize that, and I think it's because of the codependencies that I had with my family of just sticking with the company, being loyal, being committed, doing work really well, and then realizing that when you don't have control over your personal freedom, there's a problem, right? Especially when you don't see it, and especially when you don't realize that was something that you should desire, especially when I was growing up in a very conservative Asian family. I took the gamble, took 2 years of trying to figure out where I am today. 2 years ago was very difficult, where I had to leave with no plan, right? Which I highly do not recommend for people to just jump ship like that. It was a very emotional decision, and then had to figure things out. Hence, you see all the stuff that I've been kind of doing with Amazon, right? Just because it was more like trying to learn something new, fun, test myself. But I've tried other different business models, but I just haven't committed enough time to really put content around it, right? Amazon was the one I was able to just run with really quick at the time. As things evolved, opportunities kept presented, because as I increased my network and traveling, meeting people knew who I was, what I did in the past. And then next, word kind of gets passed around, and then it's all referral based. And I got my first client, then a second client, and you're straddling projects, and end up just naturally gravitating back into consulting. The only difference here is that I'm trying to develop an identity or a brand in this world. And it's really, really hard when you're acting like your own personal business as a single brand, a single person. And keep in mind, I've never done this before. I never became a freelance consultant ever in my life, especially outside of financial service industries. When you talk about small startups, small businesses, in many different niches. But what I found over time, just through my insights in consulting and understand how business should operate, or efficiencies and processes and integrations, when I look and ask people about their business or looking at their model or the lack of a process or a framework, that's when I came into the picture. I was adding value where I was trying to really do an audit around their business and their processes and their systems. So I became that system integrator where now I'm helping them structure step-by-step processes, systems, tools out there that can make sense. But yeah, that is pretty much what I've been doing right now. And clients, they were just basically, they had no clue how to do it themselves. So I end up being the one that they end up hiring. So that's what I've been doing for the last, I would say, year and a half. So I don't want to make this too long. This is kind of like where I'm at right now. I realized there are some challenges as being a freelance consultant. Basically, you can't scale. You're still trading time for money. You're trading time for more money than you would typically charge, right? But it doesn't really give you the freedom of really owning something. You're still in the demands of the client. You're still doing a lot of work upfront, and it doesn't guarantee any type of sustainability. And in today's world right now, especially with the whole coronavirus thing, it makes you realize that stability is something that we really all need to strive for in times like this to survive, right? And so as a result, as being an independent contractor or freelance consultant, you can be the first to go, right? Especially if you're an expensive one. So for the first time ever in my entire career or life, it's the first time I ever feel like my job's threatened. All the other times when you have the protection of a large firm or company, you just feel protected. You know that, especially if you reach a certain rank, the likelihood of you getting laid off or losing your job is much lower, much lower chance of happening. But yeah, I don't have that safety net. And so it's just kind of where things are at. It makes you realize that this is something that you need to kind of build your own. And that's kind of like what I'm trying to focus on and do. I partner with a good friend. I've also did a lot of learning around the digital marketing space, because I think sales and marketing is the future, will always be the future, will always be there for businesses, especially when you go digital. And I think in this time of need, I think that's a lot of these businesses, small businesses, will need that help, right? To properly position them as they're trying to get out or trying to survive through this difficult time. But anyways, it's one of those things I'm going to try to continue to focus working on and add elements of consulting to it, because what the opportunity is that I found that a lot of digital marketers are really good at what they do, right? Technically, but when it comes down to the actual consulting piece of things, they lack a lot of those fundamentals. When it comes to whether holding strategy calls, discovery calls, proposals, setting expectations, which key performance indicators are worth tracking, how to handle conflict with the client, how to manage all those things is built around just really the consulting fundamentals, right? Not necessarily the technical fundamentals. So we're teaming up to kind of package up together how we can help improve the business, acquire certain talent, and really just focusing on the next generation of work, where it's no longer about particularly running ads, campaigns, and funnels, and all these type of things I'm learning in the digital marketing space. So I think it's really important to always continually evolve. And I was kind of letting my friend know that, hey, we should probably work together. It's nice. And he gave me the opportunity to work with him to kind of see what we can do to make an awesome offer, right, to our clients, to acquiring talent, because I did spend over a decade in terms of talent acquisition for my previous life working for the large firms in recruiting on campuses. So it's all that, it's putting it all together from all my past experiences. But that's pretty much it. Consulting is pretty much my natural path. I was trained and breeded that way. It's all about being a very good problem solver, and I may just not fight against it and just focus on that. Hence, one of the reasons why, as much as I enjoy learning about Amazon and all these other business models, but I enjoy working with people. I enjoy solving problems for people, for businesses, and ultimately it just comes down to the obsession on processes and systems for me, because I was a system integrator. And I was platform agnostic, so I get to learn a lot of different systems, a lot of different platforms in many different industries. So it's just kind of like my natural inclination that I can't deny myself to just continue to do, right? So I plan on making a few changes. For this particular channel, I probably would be shifting over to creating a new channel that's going to be more focused on consulting fundamentals and different pieces of consulting, elements of consulting, right? That I feel like is lacking in this particular space, where, in the corporate world and larger firms, we take it for granted what we knew up there and how we applied it to all of our engagements, all of our programs and projects. When you could bring that down a few more levels, it's far more impactful. I feel like a lot of those fundamentals, they're not taught in college, in universities. And I noticed this with a lot of our new talent that we bring into the consulting companies, what skills they lacked or understandings that they lacked, right? So it's just one of those things where I feel like, okay, let's just go with what I know that I enjoy learning, and why not share it, what I've learned in my past experience, and just picking pieces of elements of consulting and just teach it, right? For example, like how to do resource loading, how to do project planning, how to structure a proposal, how to host a strategy call, like all these basic things that can be applied for a lot of small businesses, right? Little things like that, how to build your own personal CRM, how to manage all of your accounting and everything else as an independent contractor, things you should know when you structure and form a company. So these are all things I've learned, and I've found that after working with some of these clients, what certain consulting skill sets are applicable in this space. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I'll be potentially creating a new channel that only focus on the consulting elements. And I don't know where it's going to go. I've just figured throw it out there, and if anyone can get any value from it or apply it to their business, or if they're just starting off as a freelance consultant, maybe it'll bring some value to them. But all right, that is pretty much it. It's close to over 18 minutes, and being on a live stream with no one really on, but this is the quickest way for me to just throw the content out there without any editing. It's pretty raw, and just really just kind of talk and ramble about my consulting background. So, all right, that is it. Hopefully you guys are all staying safe and healthy. It is an extremely difficult time, and I hope to see you guys on the other side. All right, catch you guys later. Bye.